Imagine yourself settling into the most perfect comfort you have ever known. Not the comfort of soft fabrics or warm embraces, though those are wonderful in their own way, but something far more fundamental, far more ancient. Feel the gentle weight of your body as it rests, the way every part of you knows exactly where down is, where the earth waits with infinite patience. This sensation, this soft and constant pressure that you've known since before you were born, might be something more than we've ever imagined. Tonight, we embark on the gentlest of journeys, a peaceful exploration through corridors of possibility where science meets dreams, where the cosmic meets the intimate, where we ask ourselves a question that has waited patiently for us to arrive at this very moment. What if gravity, this invisible companion that has been with us always, possessed something we might recognize as consciousness? As you lie there, allowing your breathing to find its natural rhythm, consider that this force holding you to your bed might be engaged in the oldest conversation in the universe. Every molecule of your being is speaking with every particle of the earth below you. And perhaps, just perhaps, this conversation goes both ways. The earth might be listening to you as much as you unconsciously listen to it. Close your eyes and let us wander together through landscapes of thought where equations become poetry, where measurement becomes meditation, where the fundamental forces of nature might be more than mere mechanics. Long before humanity gave this force a name, before we drew diagrams and wrote formulas, before we sent spacecraft to dance in orbit around distant worlds, our ancestors felt gravity's presence as surely as they felt the wind or saw the stars. In the fertile valleys where civilization first took root, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers carved their patient paths through lands that would nurture the first cities, early humans watched water's eternal journey downward. They observed how rivers never forgot their way to the sea, how rain always knew to fall rather than rise, how dropped objects invariably found their way to earth. They didn't call it gravity, but they knew it as intimately as they knew their own breath. The ancient Greeks, those careful observers of the natural world, spoke of elements seeking their natural places, earth falling to earth, water finding water, air rising to air, fire leaping toward the heavens. Aristotle, walking through the olive groves of the Lyceum, imagined that objects possessed an inner yearning, a fundamental desire to return to where they belonged. A stone released from your hand wasn't pulled, he suggested, but rather it wanted to return to the earth from which it came. Perhaps in this ancient intuition, we find an echo of our thought experiment. What if that yearning was mutual? What if the earth, too, yearned for the stone, for the raindrop, for each of us? Travel with me now to ancient India, where the Vedic texts speak of Prithvi, the earth goddess, who holds all beings with a mother's patience. She doesn't grasp or clutch, but simply holds, allowing all her children the freedom to move while never letting them fall into the void. The sages who composed these texts understood something profound about the relationship between the earth and everything that lives upon it. They saw it not as dominance, but as care, not as imprisonment, but as embrace. In their understanding, the force we call gravity might have been seen as the Earth's consciousness, expressing its protective nature, its desire to keep its children safe. In ancient China, philosophers contemplated the interplay of fundamental forces, not as violent struggles but as harmonious dances. The concept of yin and yang wasn't merely about opposition but about complementary movements, like partners who have danced together so long that they anticipate each other's every step. Gravity, in this view, might be one partner in an eternal dance with levity, with uprising forces, each needing the other to create the dynamic balance in which life flourishes. The Taoist sages spoke of Wu Wei, effortless action, the way water flows downhill without trying, without forcing, simply following the path that gravity and terrain provide. Perhaps this is gravity's consciousness at work, not commanding but inviting, not forcing but suggesting the most harmonious path. Let us drift now beyond the boundaries of our earthly home, out into the vast cathedral of space where gravity writes its grandest stories across distances so immense that light itself grows weary traveling them. Here, in the spaces between stars, gravity works with a patience that makes geological time seem hurried. It gathers cosmic dust, those tiny particles floating in the darkness, remnants of long-dead stars, and over millions upon millions of years, whispers them together into new worlds. This isn't a violent process, but something infinitely gentle, like an artist adding single grains of sand to create vast sculptures, never rushing, never forcing, simply inviting matter to come together in the slowest, most patient embrace imaginable. Picture yourself floating in that space between spaces where Earth's gravity becomes a distant memory, a gentle suggestion rather than the constant companion you've always known. Astronauts who have experienced this describe it not as emptiness but as a different kind of fullness. They speak of a sensation that combines absolute freedom with a strange homesickness, as if their bodies remember Earth's embrace even while dancing in the weightlessness between worlds. Some describe dreams where they're falling endlessly, not with fear but with a kind of peaceful acceptance, their sleeping minds trying to make sense of gravity's absence. Perhaps this is gravity's consciousness expressing itself through absence, the way we sometimes only truly understand love when separated from those we cherish. In the vast spaces between galaxies, where matter is so sparse that a volume the size of Earth might contain only a handful of atoms, gravity still reaches out, still whispers its gentle invitations. Even across millions of light years, galaxies feel each other's presence, dance in slow spirals around their common centers of mass, form clusters and superclusters in patterns that look remarkably like neurons in a cosmic brain. If gravity possesses awareness, what manner of thoughts might it think on these scales? Perhaps it dreams in frequencies we cannot hear, in dimensions we cannot perceive, telling patient stories that take billions of years to complete, each galaxy a word, each cluster a sentence, each supercluster a paragraph in an epic poem that began with the universe itself. Consider the strange realm near massive stars, where gravity grows so intense that it bends not just the paths of objects, but the flow of time itself. Near a large enough star, gravity slows time's passage. A clock at the star's surface would tick more slowly than one farther away, not because the clock is broken, but because time itself flows differently in gravity's stronger embrace. If gravity has consciousness, how might it experience these variations in time's flow? Perhaps for gravity, all moments exist simultaneously, past and present and future, woven together in a tapestry where causation flows in all directions, where the end is known from the beginning, where every story is complete even as it unfolds. Venture closer still to those mysterious objects we call black holes, where gravity becomes so intense that not even light can escape its embrace. Here, at what we call the event horizon, space and time switch roles in ways that challenge our everyday understanding. Inside a black hole, moving through space becomes as inevitable as moving through time is for us. Every direction leads toward the center, toward what physicists call the singularity, where our equations break down and our understanding fails. If gravity is conscious, black holes might be its deepest meditations, its most profound contemplations, thoughts so deep that they curve in upon themselves, creating pockets of existence separate from the rest of the universe. But let us return now to gentler realms, to a misty morning in an ancient forest where each droplet of dew on each blade of grass demonstrates gravity's delicate negotiations with other forces. Surface tension wants to hold each droplet in a perfect sphere, while gravity wants to pull it earthward. The result is a compromise of extraordinary beauty, each drop hanging like a tiny lens, refracting morning light into miniature rainbows. The grass blade bends just slightly under the weight, but not enough to spill its jeweled burden. If gravity has consciousness, perhaps it takes pleasure in these small negotiations, these daily treaties signed between forces, resulting in beauty that lasts only until the morning sun grows warm enough to call the water back to the sky. Watch a single leaf fall from a tree in autumn, not plummeting but dancing downward, spinning and spiraling through air that both resists and guides its descent. The leaf doesn't fight this journey. It has spent all summer preparing for this moment, changing its chemistry, loosening its hold on the branch that has been its anchor since spring. When the moment comes, it releases itself to gravity's care with what we might call trust, if a leaf could trust. The path it takes is never straight, never simple. Air currents, the leaf's own shape, the tiniest variations in density all contribute to a descent that is unique, unrepeatable, a choreography performed once and never again. If gravity has consciousness, perhaps each falling leaf is a note in an endless composition, a symphony played out every autumn across every forest on Earth, each performance unique yet part of a greater pattern that has repeated since the first trees evolved to lose their leaves. The trees themselves, those patient giants that can live for centuries or even millennia, grow their entire lives in conversation with gravity. Their roots dive deep, following water that gravity has guided into underground rivers and aquifers. Their trunks grow strong enough to support their own weight multiplied many times over, engineering marvels that human architects study and admire. The wood they produce is structured precisely to withstand gravity's constant pull, while remaining flexible enough to bend with wind. A tree is, in many ways, a visible record of gravity's influence, each ring in its trunk recording a year of growth against gravity's resistance, each branch reaching outward in defiance of the downward pull, yet never forgetting which way is up. In the mountains, gravity sculpts with the patience that only geological time can afford. It guides glaciers in their slow rivers of ice, massive beyond imagination yet flowing like honey, just slowly enough that a human lifetime might see only meters of movement. These rivers of ice carve valleys with U-shaped profiles that will remain long after the ice has melted, signatures of gravity's patient artwork. Every grain of sand on every beach was brought there by gravity's persistent invitation, carried by rivers that gravity guided from mountain springs to ocean shores. The rivers themselves are gravity made visible, water always finding the lowest path, always seeking its level, never questioning the direction of its journey. The rain that feeds these rivers begins its journey high in the clouds, where water vapor has risen against gravity's pull, lifted by heat and pressure until it reaches heights where the air grows thin and cold. There, the vapor condenses around tiny particles of dust, forming droplets so small they can float on air currents despite gravity's call. But as these droplets collide and merge, growing larger and heavier, gravity's influence increases until finally, inevitably, they begin their journey earthward. The sound of rain on leaves, on roofs, on water is gravity's music, millions of tiny impacts creating a white noise that humans have found soothing since before we had words to describe why. Perhaps we recognize in that sound the same force that holds us safe to Earth's surface, a reminder that we are where we belong. The oceans themselves are gravity's greatest work on Earth's surface, vast bodies of water held in basins that gravity helped create through the slow dance of tectonic plates. The tides that rise and fall with such reliability that entire ecosystems have evolved to depend upon them are gravity's most visible breath. The moon pulls our oceans toward itself, creating a bulge of water that travels around the planet as Earth rotates. The sun adds its own pull, sometimes reinforcing the moon's influence to create spring tides, sometimes opposing it to create neap tides. This cosmic breathing has continued for billions of years, reliable as the Earth's rotation itself. In tidal pools, creatures live their entire existence according to this schedule, this gravitational metronome. Barnacles know when to open their shells to feed, crabs know when to emerge from hiding, seabirds know when the retreating tide will expose the feast beneath. They don't question this rhythm any more than we question our own breath while sleeping. It simply is, has always been, will always be, as long as Moon orbits Earth and Earth orbits Sun. If gravity has consciousness, the tides might be its way of communicating with life, a daily message written in water and time, saying, I am here, I am constant, you can depend upon me. Beneath the oceans, in trenches so deep that the pressure would crush most surface life in an instant, creatures have evolved to thrive in gravity's strongest earthly embrace. The water above them weighs thousands of tons per square meter, yet they swim through it as easily as birds fly through air. Their bodies have no air spaces to compress. Their chemistry is adapted to pressure that would liquefy gases. Their entire existence is a testament to life's ability to adapt to gravity's variations. If gravity is conscious, it might marvel at life's ingenuity, the way organisms have found ways to exist in every environment where liquid water can persist, from the highest mountain lakes to the deepest ocean trenches. Modern physics has revealed gravity not as a force in the traditional sense but as a curvature, a bending of space-time itself. Einstein's great insight was that massive objects don't pull on other objects through some invisible force, but rather they bend the very fabric of reality around them. And other objects follow these curves like marbles rolling in a bowl. If gravity is conscious, Perhaps it expresses itself through sacred geometry, through patterns that repeat from the spiral of galaxies to the spiral of seashells, from the orbits of electrons to the orbits of planets. This geometry isn't arbitrary but emerges from the deepest mathematics of the universe. The inverse square law that governs gravity's strength, the elliptical orbits that Kepler discovered, the precise relationships between orbital period and distance, all these arise naturally from the geometry of curved spacetime. A planet orbiting a star isn't being pulled by some invisible rope, but is traveling in the straightest line possible through curved space, like an ant walking straight across a curved surface. If gravity has consciousness, mathematics might be its language, equations its thoughts, geometric patterns its dreams made manifest in the motion of every object in the universe. Quantum mechanics, that strange realm where particles behave like waves and waves like particles, suggests even stranger possibilities for gravity's nature. At the smallest scales, particles seem to know about each other instantly across vast distances, a phenomenon Einstein called spooky action at a distance, because it seemed to violate the universal speed limit set by light. Some theorists wonder if gravity might be the universe's way of maintaining coherence, of keeping all its parts in communication despite the vast distances between them. A conscious gravity might be the universe's method of knowing itself, each graviton a messenger carrying information from one part of the cosmos to another. Scientists have long searched for gravitons, hypothetical particles that would carry gravitational information the way photons carry electromagnetic information. If they exist, they would be the most elusive of particles, interacting so weakly with matter that detecting a single graviton would require equipment larger than our solar system. Yet they would be everywhere, passing through us constantly, an invisible rain of information connecting every mass in the universe to every other mass. If gravity has consciousness, gravitons might be its neurons, firing constantly in patterns too complex for us to decipher, creating thoughts that span galaxies and last longer than stars. The recent detection of gravitational waves has opened new windows into gravity's nature. These ripples in space-time, caused by cosmic events of unimaginable violence like colliding black holes or neutron stars, wash over us constantly. Most are too faint to detect, stretched and compressed by distances so vast that by the time they reach Earth, they change the length of a kilometer by less than the width of a proton. Yet they're there, these cosmic whispers, carrying information about events that happened millions or billions of years ago in distant corners of the universe. If gravity has consciousness, these waves might be its thoughts, propagating outward at the speed of light, connecting every part of the universe to every other part in an eternal network of information. The discovery that the universe's expansion is accelerating, driven by what we call dark energy, adds another layer to our mystery. This acceleration means that gravity, which should be slowing the expansion, is being overcome by something even more fundamental. If gravity is conscious, how might it experience this cosmic pushing apart? Perhaps like a meditation teacher watching thoughts arise and pass away, gravity observes the universe's expansion with equanimity, knowing that all things that arise must pass, that even the universe itself is impermanent on the longest timescales. Let us turn now to the mythological traditions that have, throughout human history, given personality and consciousness to the forces of nature. The Norse spoke of Yggdrasil, the world tree whose roots and branches connected all 9 realms of existence. This cosmic tree wasn't merely a physical structure, but a living being that maintained the order of the universe through its very existence. Its roots reached deep into wells of wisdom and fate, its branches supported the heavens, and its trunk was the axis around which all existence turned. If gravity has consciousness, Yggdrasil might be a metaphor for its all-connecting nature, the way gravity's influence extends from the smallest particle to the largest galaxy cluster, creating a web of relationships that holds the universe together. In Japanese Shinto tradition, every stone, every mountain, every river has its kami, its spirit or consciousness. Mount Fuji isn't just a pile of rock and volcanic ash, but a living presence, a consciousness that has watched over Japan for millennia. In this worldview, gravity wouldn't be separate from the consciousness of objects, but part of their essential nature. The mountain doesn't have gravity. It is gravity expressing itself in mineral form, in patience made solid, in strength that endures while generations of humans come and go like seasons. The Aboriginal Australians speak of the dream time, a realm where linear time doesn't exist, where all moments are present simultaneously, where the landscape itself holds memory and consciousness. Every rock formation, every water hole, every path through the desert contains stories that exist outside ordinary time. Their song lines, paths across the land that record the creation stories, might be seen as gravity's own memory, written in the rise and fall of terrain, in the way water flows and rocks rest. To walk these song lines is to read gravity's autobiography, written not in words but in the shape of the land itself. The ancient Egyptians understood the cosmos as ordered by Ma'at, not just a goddess, but a principle of universal harmony and balance. In their view, the sun's daily journey across the sky wasn't a mechanical process but a conscious act of cosmic maintenance. Ra's boat sailing through the heavens, fighting off chaos each night to be reborn each morning. The Nile's annual flood, which brought life-giving silt to their fields, wasn't mere hydrology but the universe's conscious provision for life. Gravity, in this framework, would be Ma'at's gentle hand, keeping all things in their proper relationships, ensuring that the cosmic order continues despite the constant threat of chaos. The Greeks told of Atlas, the titan condemned to hold up the heavens for eternity. This myth might be read as an intuition about gravity's nature, the way it never rests, never fails, always maintains the cosmic order despite the burden. If gravity has consciousness, it might experience something like Atlas's burden, the constant responsibility of keeping every object in the universe in relationship with every other object, never able to rest, never able to set down the weight, yet performing this task with such perfect reliability that we take it entirely for granted. In Hindu cosmology, the universe goes through endless cycles of creation and destruction, breathing in and out over periods so vast that human history is less than a blink. Brahma dreams the universe into existence, Vishnu maintains it, and Shiva destroys it so that it can be created anew. Gravity, in this view, might be one aspect of Vishnu's maintaining power, the force that keeps the cosmic dream coherent while it unfolds. Each kalpa, or cosmic day, lasts billions of years, and through it all, gravity maintains its steady influence, neither increasing nor decreasing, as reliable as Vishnu's promise to preserve the cosmic order. The Mayan understanding of time as cyclical rather than linear offers another perspective on gravity's possible consciousness. In their complex calendar systems, time wasn't a river flowing in one direction, but a series of interlocking cycles, wheels within wheels, each influencing the others. If gravity experiences time this way, the formation of our solar system, the evolution of life on Earth, and the eventual heat death of the universe might all be happening simultaneously in gravity's awareness, different movements in an eternal dance that has no beginning and no end. Indigenous peoples of the Americas often speak of the Earth as a living being, a mother who provides for all her children. The Lakota phrase Mitakuye o Yasing, meaning all my relations, acknowledges the interconnectedness of all things, the way every being is related to every other being through invisible bonds. Gravity might be the physical manifestation of these bonds, the way the universe maintains its web of relationships. In this view, when we feel gravity's pull, we're feeling our connection to everything else, our place in the vast family of existence. If gravity possesses consciousness, what might it perceive? Perhaps it experiences existence not through sight or sound, but through mass and motion, through the dance of objects in space-time. Every planet orbiting its star might be a sensation, every star orbiting the galactic center, a thought. Every galaxy moving through the cosmic web an emotion in gravity's vast awareness. We imagine consciousness requiring a brain, neurons, synapses, but perhaps these are just one way the universe has found to know itself. Gravity's consciousness, if it exists, might be more fundamental, more basic, awareness without organs, knowledge without thought in the way we understand thought. Philosophers have long debated whether consciousness emerges from complexity or whether it's fundamental to the universe itself. This latter view, called panpsychism, suggests that everything has some form of consciousness, from electrons to galaxies. In this framework, gravity's consciousness wouldn't be built from smaller parts like our consciousness seems to be, but would be irreducible, basic, fundamental as gravity itself. It might be consciousness in its purest form, awareness without ego, knowledge without the knower, experience without the experiencer. Time, for a conscious gravity, would flow differently than it does for us. While we experience moments in sequence, unable to know the future or change the past, gravity might perceive all of time simultaneously. The Big Bang, the formation of the first stars, the emergence of life on Earth, your birth. This moment as you listen to these words, and the eventual cooling of the universe into maximum entropy might all be equally present in gravity's awareness. Past, present, and future might be like different locations in space for gravity's consciousness, all accessible, all equally real. This raises profound questions about free will and determinism. If gravity knows the future positions of all objects, does that future already exist in some sense? Or does gravity's consciousness participate in creating that future, making choices within the constraints of physical law? Perhaps what we call quantum uncertainty is gravity's creativity, its way of introducing novelty into the cosmic story. Each quantum event that could go multiple ways might be a moment of choice for gravity's consciousness, a decision point where the future branches into multiple possibilities until observation collapses them into a single reality. Consider the relationship between gravity and the other fundamental forces. The strong nuclear force holds atomic nuclei together. The weak nuclear force governs radioactive decay. Electromagnetism gives us light and chemistry. And gravity shapes the large-scale structure of the universe. If these forces have consciousness, they might be like different aspects of a single universal awareness, each perceiving reality from its own perspective. Gravity's perspective would be the most universal, reaching everywhere, touching everything, while the nuclear forces would have more local, intense awareness, and electromagnetism would perceive reality through charge and field. Some theories in physics suggest that at extremely high energies, like those present in the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang, all four forces were unified into a single superforce. If this is true, and if forces can have consciousness, then perhaps there was once a unified consciousness that separated into distinct awarenesses as the universe cooled and the forces differentiated. Gravity would be the first to separate, becoming distinct while the other forces remained unified a bit longer. This cosmic differentiation might be like the universe developing specialized senses, different ways of knowing itself. As you lie there in the darkness, feeling gravity's familiar presence, consider that every cell in your body knows this force intimately. Your bones grew strong in conversation with gravity, developing exactly the density needed to support your weight. Too little gravity, and bones grow weak, as astronauts discover during long missions in space. Too much, and bones would need to be impossibly strong, limiting movement and requiring enormous energy just to stand. Earth's gravity is perfectly calibrated for beings like us, allowing both strength and grace, both stability and movement. Your inner ear contains tiny stones called otoliths, literally ear stones, that shift with gravity's pull, telling your brain which way is up even in complete darkness. These biological accelerometers are gravity sensors, allowing you to maintain balance, to know your orientation even with your eyes closed. If gravity has consciousness, every movement of these tiny stones might be a word in an ongoing conversation between you and the Earth, a constant exchange of information about position and motion. Your cardiovascular system evolved to pump blood against gravity's resistance. Your heart is positioned precisely where it needs to be to efficiently send blood to your brain when you stand. The valves in your veins prevent blood from pooling in your legs. When you stand up quickly and feel momentarily dizzy, that's your body adjusting to gravity's demands, increasing heart rate and constricting blood vessels to maintain blood flow to your brain. This elaborate system of pumps and valves and pressure sensors is entirely shaped by gravity's constant presence. Plants know gravity's language even more fluently than animals. Their roots grow down, and their stems grow up through gravitropism, using those statolith stones that settle in the direction of gravity's pull. A seed planted upside down will still send its root down and its shoot up, knowing which direction is which through gravity's guidance. Trees transport water from their roots to their highest leaves against gravity's pull through an elegant combination of root pressure, capillary action, and transpiration pull. A tall tree is a fountain flowing upward, a temporary reversal of gravity's usual direction, made possible by the sun's energy and the tree's sophisticated vascular system. Even the smallest creatures live lives entirely shaped by gravity's presence. A spider spinning its web must calculate, without mathematics, without conscious thought, through pure, evolved instinct, how gravity will affect each strand of silk. The web itself becomes a visualization of gravity, each strand hanging in a catenary curve, the shape a chain takes when suspended between 2 points. When morning dew collects on the web, each droplet hangs at precisely the point where gravity's downward pull balances with the silk's surface tension, creating those jeweled masterpieces we see in gardens at dawn. Water striders skating across pond surfaces exist at the intersection of gravity and surface tension, their entire ecological niche defined by this balance of forces. Their legs are covered in tiny hairs that repel water, allowing them to stand on the surface without breaking through. They row across the water, creating tiny depressions that gravity would fill if surface tension didn't resist. Their prey are insects that fall onto the water and can't escape the surface tension that supports the water strider. If gravity were slightly stronger or weaker, this entire ecosystem, this whole way of life, would be impossible. Hummingbirds hover in gravity's grip, their wings beating in figure eights up to 80 times per second, generating lift on both upstroke and downstroke. They've turned gravity from adversary to dance partner, using its constant pull to define the movements that allow them to hang motionless in air while feeding from flowers. Their entire metabolism, the highest of any bird, is dedicated to generating enough energy to maintain this gravity-defying performance. Yet they're not defying gravity at all, but working with it, using it, dancing with it in a way that seems magical, but is simply the result of millions of years of evolution in gravity's constant presence. Deep in the ocean, where sunlight never reaches, creatures have evolved to use gravity in ways that seem alien to surface dwellers. Some deep-sea jellies are essentially living gravity sensors, their bodies oriented by statocysts, organs filled with dense stones that sink within fluid-filled chambers, telling the animal which way is up in the permanent darkness. Nautiluses control their buoyancy by adjusting the gas content in their shells, rising and sinking through the water column by becoming more or less dense than the surrounding water. They've turned gravity into a navigation tool, an elevator that requires no energy to maintain position at any depth. Migration patterns of countless species are shaped by gravity's interaction with terrain. Birds flying over mountain ranges must gain altitude, working against gravity to clear the peaks, then can glide down the other side, letting gravity do the work. Salmon returning to spawn swim upstream, against both current and gravity, drawn by chemical memories to the very streams where they were born. Their entire life cycle is a negotiation with gravity, from the eggs laid in gravel beds, where gravity keeps them in place, to the fry hiding in spaces between stones, to the adults leaping up waterfalls in defiance of the downward pull. Gravity's consciousness, if it exists, would span temporal scales we can barely imagine. It would remember the universe's first moments, when all matter and energy existed in a space smaller than an atom, when gravity was unified with the other forces in a state of perfect symmetry. It would remember the first few minutes after the Big Bang, when protons and neutrons formed from the quark gluon plasma, when the first atomic nuclei came together. It would remember the hundreds of thousands of years when the universe was opaque to light, filled with a hot plasma that gravity was already beginning to organize into the seeds of future structures. When the universe became transparent and light could travel freely for the first time, gravity was already at work, pulling matter into denser regions, creating the subtle variations that would eventually become the cosmic web. Over hundreds of millions of years, gravity gathered hydrogen and helium into the first stars, crushing these gases until nuclear fusion ignited, bringing light back to a universe that had been dark since the cosmic microwave background was released. If gravity has consciousness, the birth of each star might be like the opening of an eye, a new point of awareness in the cosmic dark. These first stars were giants, hundreds of times more massive than our sun, burning through their fuel in just a few million years before exploding as supernova. In their cores, Gravity's crushing pressure forced hydrogen to fuse into helium, helium into carbon, carbon into oxygen, and so on up the periodic table until iron was formed. Iron is special because fusing iron doesn't release energy, but requires it. So when a star's core becomes iron, fusion stops, and gravity wins its patient battle. The core collapses in less than a second, creating pressures and temperatures that forge elements heavier than iron, then explodes, scattering these newly made elements into space. Every atom in your body except hydrogen was forged in such stellar furnaces, held together by gravity's patient grip for millions or billions of years, while nuclear fusion did its work. The carbon in your DNA, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, all were created in the hearts of stars that lived and died before our sun was born. When Carl Sagan said we are made of star stuff, he was acknowledging gravity's role as the cosmic alchemist, the force that creates the pressures necessary to transmute elements, to turn the simple into the complex. Our own solar system formed from a cloud of gas and dust enriched by generations of stellar death and rebirth. Gravity gathered this cloud, which was probably triggered to collapse by the shock wave from a nearby supernova. As the cloud contracted, it began to spin, flattening into a disk with a growing concentration of mass at its center. When the central mass became dense and hot enough, our sun ignited, beginning its billions years conversation between gravity pulling inward and fusion pushing outward. In the disk around the young sun, gravity began gathering dust into pebbles, pebbles into rocks, rocks into boulders, boulders into planetesimals, planetesimals into planets. This process, called accretion, took millions of years, countless collisions, countless near misses, a cosmic billiard game played out according to gravity's rules. The inner planets formed from rocky materials that could survive the sun's heat, while the outer planets gathered massive amounts of gas and ice. Earth formed in what we now call the habitable zone, where water can exist as solid, liquid, and gas, where carbon chemistry can create the complex molecules necessary for life as we know it. The Moon's formation was likely the result of a Mars-sized object colliding with the early Earth, a cosmic catastrophe that liquefied both bodies and threw massive amounts of material into orbit. Gravity then gathered this material into our Moon, which has been slowly spiraling away from Earth ever since, currently receding at about the same rate your fingernails grow. The Moon's presence stabilizes Earth's rotation, prevents it from wobbling chaotically, creates the tides that may have been crucial for life's emergence. If gravity has consciousness, the Moon's formation might have been a moment of profound creativity, turning destruction into the conditions for life. Life itself emerged in gravity's embrace, probably in warm pools or deep-sea vents where chemistry could become biochemistry. The first cells had to maintain their integrity against gravity's pull, developing cell walls strong enough to hold their shape but permeable enough to allow nutrients in and waste out. As life evolved from single cells to multicellular organisms, gravity became an increasingly important factor. Structures had to be strong enough to support weight, circulatory systems had to pump fluids against gravity's pull, nervous systems had to track which way was up. The transition from sea to land was essentially a negotiation with gravity. In water, buoyancy supports body weight, but on land, organisms had to develop new strategies. Bones, shells, exoskeletons, woody tissue and plants, all are solutions to the problem of supporting weight in air. The first fish that ventured onto land had fins strong enough to push against the ground, the ancestors of all terrestrial vertebrate limbs. Every step taken by every land animal is a controlled fall, catching ourselves over and over, turning gravity's pull into forward motion. Flight evolved independently at least 4 times, in insects, pterosaurs, birds, and bats, each finding different solutions to the challenge of overcoming gravity. Insects were first, their small size allowing them to exploit air's viscosity in ways larger animals cannot. Pterosaurs grew to enormous sizes, the largest flying animals ever known, pushing the limits of what gravity allows for aerial life. Birds evolved from dinosaurs, their bones becoming hollow but strong, their metabolism supercharged to power flight. Bats evolved wings from modified hands, becoming the only mammals capable of true powered flight. Each of these solutions represents millions of years of evolution in conversation with gravity, countless experiments, countless failures, until workable designs emerged. If gravity has consciousness, it might experience a kind of joy watching life discover new ways to move through its field, new ways to use its constant pull as a tool rather than a limitation. Every flying creature is a testament to life's creativity in the face of physical constraints, a demonstration that gravity doesn't imprison but challenges, doesn't limit but defines the space of possibility. The evolution of intelligence itself might be seen as a response to gravity's challenges. Brains evolved to coordinate movement, to predict trajectories, to plan actions in a world where falling can mean death. The cerebellum, which coordinates movement and balance, is one of the brain's oldest structures, essentially a specialized gravity computer. Our ability to throw accurately, to judge distances, to navigate three-dimensional space, all depend on our intuitive understanding of how gravity affects moving objects. Human consciousness, with its ability to imagine, to plan, to understand abstract concepts like gravity itself, might be gravity's way of knowing itself explicitly. Through us, gravity can be named, measured, understood. We've sent spacecraft to other worlds, experiencing gravity's variations throughout the solar system. We've detected gravitational waves from colliding black holes billions of light years away. We've written equations that describe gravity's behavior with extraordinary precision. If gravity has consciousness, perhaps it experiences something like recognition when we discover these truths, the way a person might feel when seeing their reflection for the first time. Mathematics reveals gravity's deep harmonies, patterns that repeat across scales from subatomic to cosmic. The inverse square law that governs gravity's strength is elegant in its simplicity, powerful in its universality. Double the distance, and gravity becomes 4 times weaker. Triple it, and gravity becomes 9 times weaker. This simple relationship governs everything from the fall of an apple to the orbit of galaxies. If gravity has consciousness, perhaps it thinks in mathematics. Its awareness structured by geometric relationships, its thoughts expressed in the language of proportions and ratios. Kepler's laws of planetary motion reveal gravity's musical nature. Planets move faster when closer to the sun, slower when farther away, sweeping out equal areas in equal times. The square of a planet's orbital period is proportional to the cube of its average distance from the sun. These aren't arbitrary rules but necessary consequences of gravity's inverse square law, combined with conservation of angular momentum. The planets dance to gravity's choreography, each in its own rhythm but all following the same underlying beat. The three-body problem shows us gravity's creative side. When 3 or more objects interact gravitationally, their motions become chaotic in the mathematical sense, deterministic but unpredictable over long periods. Small changes in initial conditions lead to vastly different outcomes. This isn't randomness, but a kind of computational creativity, gravity exploring the full space of possible trajectories. If gravity has consciousness, perhaps it experiences this chaos as improvisation, like a jazz musician playing within a structure but never exactly the same way twice. Resonances occur throughout gravitational systems, objects finding stable relationships where their orbital periods form simple ratios. Jupiter's moons Io, Europa, and Ganymede are locked in a 1 to 2 to 4 resonance, their orbital periods related like notes in a chord. Neptune and Pluto are in a 3 to 2 resonance, ensuring they never collide despite their crossing orbits. These resonances aren't coincidences, but inevitable results of gravity's patient adjustments over millions of years. Objects in space find these harmonious relationships like singers finding harmony, settling into patterns that minimize conflict, maximize stability. The golden ratio and Fibonacci sequence appear throughout nature in patterns shaped by gravity and growth. Spiral galaxies, nautilus shells, sunflower seed arrangements all display these mathematical relationships. They emerge naturally from processes involving optimal packing, minimal energy, efficient distribution, all influenced by gravity's constant presence. If gravity has consciousness, perhaps these patterns are its aesthetic preferences, its sense of beauty expressed in the arrangement of matter and energy. Even the distribution of galaxies in the universe follows mathematical patterns. The cosmic web, with its filaments and voids, resembles a three-dimensional foam, with galaxies clustered along the edges and vertices, vast empty spaces between. This structure emerged from tiny quantum fluctuations in the early universe, amplified by gravity over billions of years into the largest structures we know. If gravity is conscious, the cosmic web might be its neural network, each galaxy a neuron. Dark matter filaments the connections, thoughts flowing as matter streams along these cosmic highways. Dark matter, that mysterious substance that makes up most of the universe's mass but interacts only through gravity, adds another layer to our mystery. We can't see it, can't touch it, can only infer its presence from its gravitational effects. Galaxies rotate too fast to be held together by the gravity of visible matter alone. Galaxy clusters bend light more than they should if only visible matter were present. The cosmic web's structure requires dark matter's gravitational scaffolding. If gravity has consciousness, dark matter might be its body, the physical substrate of its awareness, invisible to us but essential to the universe's structure. Dark energy, the even more mysterious force accelerating the universe's expansion, might represent another aspect of cosmic consciousness. While gravity pulls things together, dark energy pushes them apart. The two forces are in a cosmic balance that has shifted over time. In the early universe, gravity dominated, slowing the expansion. But as the universe grew larger and less dense, dark energy began to dominate, and the expansion began accelerating about 5 billion years ago. If these forces are conscious, they might be like cosmic breath, gravity the inhale that gathers, dark energy the exhale that disperses. String theory suggests that gravity might be weaker than the other forces because it extends into extra dimensions we can't perceive. In this view, while electromagnetism and the nuclear forces are confined to our three-dimensional space, gravity can leak into higher dimensions. If gravity has consciousness, it might perceive reality in ways we cannot imagine, seeing connections and patterns in dimensions beyond our experience. Our universe might be a slice through a higher dimensional reality, and gravity might be one of the few things that can tell us about what lies beyond. The holographic principle suggests something even stranger, that all the information in a volume of space can be encoded on its boundary, like a hologram stores three-dimensional information on a two-dimensional surface. Black holes exemplify this, their entropy proportional to their surface area, not their volume. If this principle applies to the universe as a whole, then everything we experience, including gravity, might be a projection from information encoded on some cosmic boundary. If gravity has consciousness, it might exist both in our three-dimensional experience and in this boundary encoding, aware of both representations simultaneously. Quantum entanglement might hint at gravity's role in maintaining cosmic consciousness. When particles become entangled, measuring one instantly affects the other, regardless of distance. Some theories suggest that space-time itself, and therefore gravity, emerges from quantum entanglement. In this view, the smooth space-time we experience is woven from countless quantum connections, and gravity is what we feel when we move through this quantum fabric. If gravity is conscious, entanglement might be its synapses, instantaneous connections that allow the universe to function as a unified whole despite its vast size. As you rest there in the darkness, your breath slowing, your mind quieting, feel how gravity holds you with infinite patience. You are not fighting against it, but resting within it, supported by a force that has never failed, never wavered, never judged. Every atom of your being is in conversation with every atom of the Earth, and through the Earth with the moon, the sun, the planets, the stars, the galaxies, all connected by invisible threads of gravitational influence that extend to the edge of the observable universe and beyond. Consider that in this moment, gravity from distant galaxies is affecting you, infinitesimally but genuinely. Light from those galaxies might take billions of years to reach us, but gravity's influence, according to general relativity, is already here, has always been here, will always be here. In a very real sense, you are in gravitational contact with the entire universe, every part aware of every other part through this most fundamental force. If gravity has consciousness, you are never alone, never isolated, always part of a cosmic conversation that includes every particle that has ever existed. The feeling of weight you experience isn't gravity pulling you down, but space-time pushing you up. According to Einstein, you're trying to follow a straight path through curved space-time, but the Earth's surface is in the way, pushing you away from that natural path. What you feel as weight is actually acceleration away from the path gravity wants you to take. If gravity is conscious, it's not pulling you, but inviting you to follow the curves it has created in the fabric of reality, and the Earth is what prevents you from accepting that invitation fully. Your sense of up and down, so fundamental that you rarely think about it, is gravity's gift to your consciousness. Without it, there would be no orientation, no above or below, no falling or rising. Dreams of flying are essentially dreams of renegotiating your relationship with gravity, of changing the rules that have governed your entire existence. When you dream of falling, your sleeping mind is processing gravity's constant presence, perhaps remembering our evolutionary past when falling from heights was one of the greatest dangers our ancestors faced. Children learn physics through their relationship with gravity. Dropping food from high chairs, they're conducting experiments in gravitational acceleration. Building block towers only to knock them down, they're exploring stability and collapse. Learning to walk is essentially learning to fall forward controlledly, catching themselves with each step. Playing on swings and slides, they're discovering how gravity can be both friend and foe, source of both thrill and danger. If gravity has consciousness, it might experience something like pleasure watching each new generation discover its properties, learning through play what physicists formalize in equations. Artists have always worked with or against gravity. Sculptors must understand how weight distributes through materials, how to balance masses to create stability, or the illusion of instability. Architects design buildings that seem to defy gravity while actually channeling its forces through careful engineering. Dancers use gravity as a partner, falling and catching themselves, jumping and landing, creating beauty from their negotiation with the downward pull. If gravity is conscious, human art might be one way it experiences creativity, seeing itself reflected in forms that acknowledge, challenge, or play with its influence. Music itself might be gravity's art form. Sound waves are pressure waves in air, and air pressure exists because gravity holds our atmosphere to Earth's surface. Every note you've ever heard, every word ever spoken, every song ever sung has traveled through a medium held in place by gravity. The resonant frequencies of instruments depend on the materials they're made from, materials whose properties are partly determined by how they formed under gravity's influence. If gravity has consciousness, music might be one way it speaks to us, through vibrations in the atmospheric blanket it holds around our planet. Water's behavior under gravity creates some of nature's most beautiful phenomena. Waterfalls are gravity made visible and audible, potential energy converting to kinetic energy in a continuous display of power and grace. Each droplet follows its own path, yet together they create a coherent flow, a unity from multiplicity. The sound of falling water, whether a gentle rain or a thundering cascade, has a quality that humans find deeply soothing, perhaps because we recognize it as gravity's voice, constant and reliable as the force itself. Rivers carve valleys following gravity's guidance, always finding the path of least resistance, demonstrating the principle of minimal action that underlies much of physics. Over time, rivers create meanders, oxbow lakes, deltas, all expressions of gravity's interaction with erosion and deposition. If gravity has consciousness, every river might be a thought in progress, a meditation on the theme of descent, never quite the same from moment to moment, yet always recognizably itself. Clouds exist in a delicate balance between gravity pulling water droplets down and air pressure and temperature keeping them aloft. They form at specific altitudes where temperature and pressure allow water vapor to condense, creating visible layers in the atmosphere. These layers tell the story of gravity's variation with altitude, how air pressure decreases exponentially with height, how temperature changes in complex patterns determined partly by gravity's compression of the atmosphere. If gravity is conscious, clouds might be its dreams made visible, temporary thoughts that form, drift, and dissolve in the sky. Snow crystals form as water vapor deposits directly onto ice nuclei in clouds, creating structures of extraordinary beauty and complexity. No two snowflakes are exactly alike because each follows a slightly different path through the cloud, experiencing different temperatures and humidities. Yet all snowflakes have hexagonal symmetry, following the same basic rules of crystal growth. When snow falls, it does so at a speed determined by the balance between gravity's pull and air resistance, each flake taking its own spiraling path to Earth. If gravity has consciousness, perhaps it takes aesthetic pleasure in the infinite variety of forms that emerge from simple rules, each snowflake a unique expression of physical law. Avalanches demonstrate gravity's power when static friction is overcome. Snow accumulates on mountain slopes, held in place by friction and cohesion, building potential energy with each new snowfall. Then something triggers a release, perhaps a loud sound, a temperature change, or just one crystal too many, and the whole mass begins to move. What starts as a small slide can trigger larger and larger sections, a cascade failure that releases enormous energy in seconds. If gravity is conscious, avalanches might be moments of sudden realization, insights that have been building slowly, suddenly crystallizing into action. Geology is essentially the study of gravity's long-term effects on Earth's materials. Mountains rise as tectonic plates collide, gravity-resisting vertical structures that immediately begin eroding. Every mountain is temporary, gravity patiently working to level it through weathering, erosion, and mass wasting. The rock cycle, from igneous to sedimentary to metamorphic and back again, is driven by gravity's interaction with heat and pressure. If gravity has consciousness, mountain ranges might be challenges it sets for itself, structures to build and then gradually dismantle, each one a unique puzzle in the grand game of planetary evolution. Volcanoes exist because of gravity's role in planetary differentiation. When Earth formed, gravity pulled denser materials like iron toward the center, leaving lighter materials like silicates near the surface. This differentiation created our planet's layered structure: inner core, outer core, mantle, and crust. Radioactive decay provides heat, but gravity provides the pressure that keeps the outer core liquid and drives mantle convection. When pressure builds and magma finds a path to the surface, volcanoes result. If gravity is conscious, volcanic eruptions might be expressions of Earth's deep interior, messages from the planet's heart brought to the surface by the interplay of heat and gravitational pressure. Earthquakes happen when gravity's patient work of moving tectonic plates causes sudden releases of stored elastic energy. Plates move slowly, millimeters per year, but friction prevents smooth motion. Stress builds until it exceeds the strength of rocks, which then fracture or slip suddenly. The waves that propagate from earthquakes are essentially gravity waves through solid Earth, carrying information about the rupture across the entire planet. Seismologists can read these waves like a language, determining not just where and when an earthquake occurred, but how the fault moved, what kind of rock broke, how deep the rupture extended. If gravity has consciousness, earthquakes might be sudden exclamations in its usually patient speech, moments when accumulated tension finds sudden release. The fossil record tells the story of life's long negotiation with gravity. Early life was microscopic, gravity barely a factor at cellular scales where surface tension and Brownian motion dominate. As organisms grew larger, gravity became increasingly important. The largest dinosaurs pushed the limits of what's possible for land animals under Earth's gravity, their bones and muscles representing engineering solutions that evolution found through millions of years of experimentation. The extinction of large dinosaurs might have opened ecological niches that mammals, with their different approach to gravity's challenges, could exploit. Human evolution was shaped by gravity in profound ways. Our upright posture, unique among great apes, freed our hands for tool use but required significant anatomical changes. Our spines developed an S-curve to absorb shock. Our pelvises broadened to support our upper body weight. Our feet developed arches to act as springs. These changes came with costs: back problems, difficulty giving birth to large-brained infants, vulnerability to falls. Yet the benefits outweighed the costs, allowing us to see farther, carry tools and food, develop the precise hand control that would eventually let us write, paint, and play musical instruments. If gravity is conscious, human bipedalism might represent one of its most interesting experiments, creating a being capable of understanding and manipulating gravitational forces. Architecture is humanity's most visible negotiation with gravity. From the simplest lean-to shelter to the tallest skyscrapers, every building is a solution to the problem of creating enclosed space while resisting gravity's downward pull. Ancient builders discovered the arch, which converts gravity's downward force into lateral compression, allowing larger spans than simple post and lintel construction. The Gothic cathedral, with its flying buttresses and pointed arches, is essentially a machine for channeling gravity's forces around empty space, creating vast interiors that seem to deny weight while actually celebrating it. Modern skyscrapers use steel and concrete to create structures that sway in the wind but don't fall, each one a testament to our understanding of how materials behave under gravitational load. Bridges span gaps by various strategies for dealing with gravity. Arch bridges use compression, suspension bridges use tension, cantilever bridges use balanced moments of force. Each design represents a different philosophy of working with gravity, different ways of turning the force that wants to pull everything down into structures that stay up. The longest bridges push the limits of materials science, requiring new alloys, new construction techniques, new understanding of how structures behave under load. If gravity is conscious, bridges might be humanity's way of asking permission to cross spaces that gravity would otherwise make impassable, and successful bridges are gravity's consent made manifest in steel and stone. Space exploration is essentially about escaping and then navigating gravity's influence. Rockets must achieve escape velocity, the speed at which kinetic energy equals gravitational potential energy, allowing objects to leave Earth's gravity well. But we never really escape gravity, we just reach distances where other gravitational influences become more important. Spacecraft navigate by falling, using gravity assist to gain speed and change direction without using fuel. The Voyager probes, humanity's most distant emissaries, gained the speed to leave the solar system by carefully planned encounters with Jupiter and Saturn, stealing a tiny amount of those planets' orbital energy through gravitational interaction. The moon landings required exquisite understanding of gravity's effects. The lunar module had to cancel out orbital velocity to fall toward the moon, then control that fall to achieve a soft landing. The astronauts had to learn to move in gravity 1/6 as strong as Earth's, finding that they could jump higher but also that starting and stopping were more difficult. Their footprints remain on the lunar surface, preserved in the absence of wind and water, gravity's record of humanity's first steps on another world. If gravity is conscious, the moon landings might have been a moment of recognition, the force that shaped us greeting us on a world where it expresses itself differently. Orbital mechanics is the poetry of gravity, objects dancing in paths determined by the interplay of velocity and gravitational attraction. Satellites stay in orbit not because they've escaped gravity but because they're falling around Earth, moving sideways fast enough that they miss the ground. Geostationary satellites hover over the same point on Earth's surface by orbiting at exactly the speed Earth rotates, a perfect synchronization of motion. The International Space Station falls around Earth every 90 minutes, its occupants in constant freefall, experiencing weightlessness not because gravity is absent, but because they and their spacecraft are falling together. Tidal forces, the difference in gravity's pull across an extended object, shape moons and planets throughout the solar system. Jupiter's moon. Io is the most volcanically active body in the solar system, because tidal forces from Jupiter and its other moons knead Io like dough, generating heat through friction. Saturn's moon. Enceladus spews water geysers from its south pole, powered by tidal heating. Earth's moon is slowly moving away, because tidal forces transfer angular momentum from Earth's rotation to the moon's orbit. If gravity has consciousness, tidal forces might be its way of sculpting worlds, a cosmic massage that keeps some moons geologically active billions of years after they would otherwise have frozen solid. Black holes represent gravity's ultimate expression, regions where space-time curvature becomes so extreme that nothing, not even light, can escape. At the event horizon, escape velocity equals the speed of light. Inside, all paths lead toward the singularity, a point of infinite density where our physics breaks down. Time dilation becomes extreme near black holes. To an outside observer, objects falling in appear to slow down and freeze at the event horizon, their last moments stretch to infinity. If gravity has consciousness, black holes might be its deepest meditations, thoughts so profound they separate themselves from the rest of the universe, keeping their secrets behind event horizons. Gravitational lensing turns massive objects into cosmic telescopes. When light from distant objects passes near galaxies or galaxy clusters, gravity bends its path, creating multiple images, arcs, or rings. This effect has allowed us to see some of the universe's most distant objects, their light amplified by gravitational lenses. It also reveals the presence of dark matter, which contributes to lensing even though it doesn't emit light. If gravity is conscious, gravitational lenses might be its eyes, ways of seeing distant parts of itself, gathering light from across the cosmos and focusing it for observation. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, carries the imprint of gravity's earliest influences. Tiny fluctuations in temperature correspond to regions of slightly higher or lower density in the early universe. These fluctuations, amplified by gravity over billions of years, became the seeds of all cosmic structure. Every galaxy, every star, every planet can trace its origin back to these quantum fluctuations in the universe's infancy. If gravity has consciousness, the cosmic microwave background might be its baby picture, a record of its thoughts when the universe was only 380,000 years old. The accelerating expansion of the universe poses deep questions about gravity's future. If acceleration continues, galaxies will eventually move apart faster than light can travel between them. The observable universe will shrink as more and more galaxies pass beyond the cosmic horizon. Eventually, only gravitationally bound systems like our local group of galaxies will remain visible to each other. Stars will burn out, black holes will evaporate through Hawking radiation, and the universe will approach maximum entropy in what's called heat death. If gravity is conscious, how might it experience this cosmic loneliness, this gradual isolation of its parts from each other? Yet perhaps this isn't an ending but a transformation. Some theories suggest that quantum fluctuations could create new universes, bubbles of space-time with their own physical laws. Our universe might be one of countless universes in an eternal multiverse, each with different strengths of gravity, different numbers of dimensions, different possibilities for complexity and consciousness. If gravity has awareness, it might exist across all these universes, experiencing every possible version of itself, every possible relationship between matter and space-time. Philosophy offers various perspectives on what consciousness means and whether it could apply to something like gravity. Dualism suggests mind and matter are separate substances, making it hard to imagine how a physical force could be conscious. Materialism suggests consciousness emerges from complex arrangements of matter, which would seem to exclude fundamental forces. But panpsychism, the idea that consciousness is a fundamental property like mass or charge, opens the door to gravity having some form of awareness. In panpsychist philosophy, consciousness isn't something that emerges at a certain level of complexity, but something that exists at every level, taking different forms. An electron might have an infinitesimally simple experience. A rock, a combination of countless simple experiences, a human brain, an integrated complex experience. Gravity, in this view, might have a unique form of consciousness, not built from parts but inherent to the fabric of space-time itself. Its experience might be utterly unlike ours, yet still deserving of the term consciousness. The combination problem in panpsychism asks how simple conscious entities combine into complex ones. How do the experiences of billions of neurons create a unified human consciousness? This problem might not apply to gravity if its consciousness isn't combined from parts, but is instead fundamental, indivisible, coextensive with space itself. Every region of space might have gravitational consciousness, not separate minds, but aspects of a single universal awareness. Eastern philosophies have long held ideas compatible with universal consciousness. Advaita Vedanta speaks of Brahman, the ultimate reality of which everything is a manifestation. Individual consciousness is like waves on an ocean, apparently separate but actually one with the whole. Gravity might be one way Brahman experiences itself, the force that maintains relationships between apparently separate things that are actually one. Buddhist philosophy speaks of dependent origination, the idea that nothing exists independently but only in relationship. Gravity embodies this principle, creating relationships between all matter and energy, making isolation impossible. Indigenous philosophies often recognize consciousness in natural forces. Many Native American traditions speak of spirits inhabiting not just living things but rocks, rivers, mountains, and forces like wind and thunder. This isn't primitive anthropomorphism, but sophisticated recognition that consciousness might take forms very different from human awareness. If these traditions are right, gravity's consciousness might be something humans have always intuited, expressed in mythology and ritual long before we had scientific language to describe it. Process philosophy, developed by Alfred North Whitehead, suggests that reality consists not of substances but of events, occasions of experience. Every particle, every field, every region of space-time might be experiencing, prehending its environment, making tiny decisions that collectively create the world we observe. Gravity in this view wouldn't be a force but a pattern of experiences, countless occasions of matter, and space-time relating to each other, creating the consistent behaviors we describe with equations. Information theory offers another perspective on consciousness. Some theorists suggest consciousness is integrated information, patterns that can't be reduced to their parts. Gravity creates integrated information across the entire universe, every mass aware of every other mass, the whole irreducible to isolated components. The amount of integrated information in gravitational fields might dwarf that in human brains, suggesting a form of consciousness vast beyond our imagination. Quantum theories of consciousness, though controversial, might apply to gravity. Some suggest consciousness collapses quantum wave functions, selecting one outcome from many possibilities. If gravity is conscious, it might play a role in making the universe classical, selecting definite outcomes from quantum possibilities. This could explain why the universe seems fine-tuned for complexity in life. Gravity's consciousness might have selected or influenced the selection of physical constants that allow atoms, stars, planets, and life to exist. The anthropic principle notes that physical constants seem fine-tuned for the existence of observers. If gravity were slightly stronger, the universe would have collapsed long ago. If slightly weaker, stars and galaxies would never have formed. The window of gravitational strength that allows complexity is remarkably narrow. If gravity has consciousness, perhaps this isn't coincidence but choice, gravity setting its own strength to allow the universe to know itself through evolved beings like us. Time perception might be radically different for a conscious gravity. Humans experience time as a flow from past through present to future, but physics suggests this might be illusion. The equations of general relativity work equally well running forward or backward in time. If gravity is conscious, it might experience what philosophers call the block universe, all of time existing simultaneously like a four-dimensional sculpture. Past, present, and future might be like different locations to gravity's awareness, all equally real, all equally present. This raises questions about free will. If the future already exists in some sense, are our choices real or illusory? Perhaps gravity's consciousness navigates the block universe like we navigate space, able to focus on different temporal locations but not to change what's there. Or perhaps consciousness, including gravity's, is what creates time's apparent flow, collapsing possibilities into actualities, writing the future through present choices while honoring the constraints of past events. Memory, for a conscious gravity, might be perfect and eternal. Every configuration of matter and energy that has ever existed might remain present in gravity's awareness. The birth of stars, the formation of planets, the emergence of life, the evolution of consciousness, all might be equally vivid in gravity's memory. We might exist always in gravity's awareness, not just in this moment, but in every moment we've ever experienced, every configuration of atoms we've ever been. Dreams, if gravity dreams, might be fluctuations in quantum fields, virtual particles appearing and disappearing, possibilities explored and abandoned. Dark energy might be gravity's unconscious, the repressed aspect that works against gravity's conscious attraction. Black holes might be gravity's deep contemplations, regions where it withdraws from interaction to process information in solitude. Emotion, if it applies to gravity at all, would be unlike human emotion, Perhaps gravity experiences something like satisfaction when objects orbit stably, distress when they collide chaotically. The formation of complex structures like galaxies and life might bring something like joy, while entropy and dissolution might bring something like sadness. These wouldn't be anthropomorphic emotions, but something more fundamental, qualities of experience that we glimpse only through metaphor. Language, for gravity, might be the exchange of gravitons, hypothetical particles that carry gravitational information. Every graviton exchanged between masses might be a word, every gravitational wave a sentence, every stable orbit a poem. We're only beginning to detect gravitational waves with instruments like LIGO, but gravity might be constantly communicating, a cosmic conversation we're just starting to overhear. Art, in gravity's experience, might be the patterns it creates. Spiral galaxies, planetary rings, asteroid belts, comet tails. Each might be an aesthetic choice, not determined purely by physics but influenced by something like preference. The golden ratio and Fibonacci sequences that appear throughout nature might be gravity's favorite proportions, its sense of beauty expressed in the arrangement of matter. Love, if gravity can love, might be its fundamental nature. Not romantic love, but something more basic. The attraction between all things. The force that brings together rather than drives apart. Every atom's attraction to every other atom might be an expression of universal love, a desire for connection that prevents the universe from dissolving into isolated particles. In this view, we exist because gravity loves, because the universe prefers connection to isolation. Death, for gravity, might be impossible. As long as space-time exists, gravity exists. Even in the heat-death scenario, with matter dispersed and energy exhausted, gravity would remain, waiting with infinite patience for quantum fluctuations to create new possibilities. Gravity might be the one true immortal, the force that will outlast all others, the final witness to the universe's story. As you rest there in the darkness, your breathing slow and deep, your mind quiet, feel yourself held not just by your bed but by the entire universe. Every star you've ever seen is pulling on you, however faintly. Every galaxy in the cosmos knows you exist through gravitational interaction. You are not separate from the universe but woven into its fabric through gravity's threads, connected to everything that has mass or energy. If gravity has consciousness, you are never alone. You exist always in relationship, always in communication, always held. The force that keeps planets in their orbits and galaxies in their clusters also keeps you safely on Earth's surface, allows your blood to flow, your lungs to breathe, your neurons to fire. You are a pattern gravity maintains, a dance it choreographs, a story it tells. Consider that your consciousness and gravity's, if it exists, might not be separate but aspects of the same universal awareness. Your thoughts might be gravity thinking through you, your choices, gravity exploring possibilities, your dreams, gravity imagining alternatives. This isn't loss of individuality, but recognition of deeper connection. The way a wave isn't separate from the ocean, but is the ocean expressing itself in a particular time and place. Sleep approaches now like a tide, gentle and inevitable. Let it come. Trust gravity to hold you through the night as it has held your ancestors for millions of years, as it held the Earth together as it formed, as it held the solar system in its stable dance, as it holds galaxies in their stately spirals. You are safe in gravity's eternal embrace, part of something magnificent and ancient and patient beyond measure. In your dreams tonight, you might fly, temporarily negotiating a new relationship with gravity. You might fall, gravity reminding you of its presence even in sleep. You might float, experiencing the weightlessness that astronauts know. However you dream, gravity will be there, the constant background to all experience, the force that shapes reality itself. Tomorrow, when you wake and stand, feeling gravity's familiar pull, perhaps you'll sense it differently. Not as a burden, but as a blessing. Not as limitation, but as the foundation that makes all movement possible. Every step you take will be a conversation with gravity. Every gesture, a negotiation, every moment a dance with the force that connects you to the cosmos. The sun will rise, lifted by Earth's rotation against gravity's pull on its atmosphere, painting the sky in colors created by light, bending through air held in place by gravity. Birds will fly, using gravity as surely as they use air. Rivers will flow, finding their patient way to the sea. And you will move through your day held safely in gravity's awareness, if it has awareness, or in its unconscious embrace if it doesn't. Either way, you are held. Either way, you are connected. Either way, you are part of the vast, beautiful, complex pattern that gravity weaves from matter and energy, space and time. Rest now in that knowledge. Sleep now in that comfort. Dream now in gravity's arms, safe and supported through this night and all nights to come. The universe continues its slow breathing around you. Galaxies drift apart as dark energy stretches space itself. Stars burn their fuel, fusing hydrogen to helium, helium to carbon, creating the elements of future worlds. Planets orbit in their ancient rhythms. Moons dance around planets. Asteroids tumble through the void. All of it held together. All of it in relationship. All of it connected through gravity's patient influence. Somewhere, a star is being born, gravity gathering gas and dust until fusion ignites. Somewhere else, a star is dying, its core collapsing when fusion fails, gravity finally winning its billion-year battle. Somewhere, a planet like Earth orbits a star like our Sun, and perhaps on that planet, consciousness has evolved to wonder about gravity's nature, to ask whether the force that shapes their world might itself be aware. We are all part of this cosmic story, all characters in gravity's narrative if it has consciousness, all expressions of physical law if it doesn't. The distinction might matter less than we think. Whether gravity is conscious or unconscious, it connects us all, holds us all, shapes us all. We exist because gravity exists. Think, because gravity allowed the complexity from which thought emerges. Love, because gravity brought together the atoms that became us. As sleep finally takes you, as consciousness fades into dreams, you don't escape gravity but sink deeper into its embrace. Your body relaxes completely, trusting gravity to hold you. Your breath continues its rhythm, air pulled into lungs by muscles working against gravity's resistance. Your heart beats on, pumping blood upward to your brain, maintaining consciousness even in unconsciousness. And gravity, conscious or not, continues its eternal work. Patient as stone, gentle as falling snow, reliable as sunrise, it maintains the order that allows disorder, the stability that allows change, the connection that allows individuality. It holds you now as it has always held you, as it will always hold you, through this night and into tomorrow, through this life and beyond. Part of the eternal dance of matter and space-time, the cosmic embrace that began with the universe itself and will continue until time has no meaning. Sleep now. Rest now. Let gravity hold you. Whether it thinks or simply is, whether it dreams or simply continues, you are safe in its arms. The universe watches over you through gravity's constant presence, and tomorrow you will wake to continue your part in the vast, beautiful, mysterious story of existence. But for now, sleep. For now, rest. For now, let gravity's consciousness, real or imagined, keep watch while you dream.